Okay, imagine this for a moment. You've got 30 Buddhist monks, right? Really dedicated forest-dwelling types.
Mm-hmm. Living very simply.
Exactly. Taking only alms food, wearing these patched-up robes. They only own 3 garments. That's it.
That's their whole setup. Very minimal.
And they're on this really urgent pilgrimage, trying to get to the Buddha in Savatthi.
At the Jetavana Monastery, yeah. The one donated by Kaṭhinakkhandhaka. Big deal.
Right, and the goal is to get there before the annual rains retreat starts. You know, that 3-month period where monks usually stay put.
A crucial deadline for them.
But then, bam, the monsoon hits.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Oh, yeah.
They get totally stranded. Stuck in a place called Kaṭhina, which is about 6 yejanas, maybe leagues away.
Right, about 6 leaves. Doesn't sound that far on paper, maybe.
No, but think about it. Pouring rain, muddy roads, their robes getting soaked and heavy. It must have felt like a world away.
Absolutely. Just impossible conditions for travel back then.
So they were really distressed, frustrated, because the Buddha, their teacher, was so near, but just out of reach.
It's such a vivid picture, isn't it? Even for these incredibly dedicated practitioners, basic physical stuff, weather, travel, it hits hard.
Totally. It shows the real human side of it all.
Yeah, the very human challenges they faced.
Okay, so fast forward 3 months. They've done their rains retreat, stuck in Kaṭhina. They finally make it to Savatthi.
And what a sight they must have been.
Oh, you could just picture it. Soaked, covered in mud, completely exhausted. Robes clinging, heavy with water, just miserable.
A really rough arrival. Humbling, I imagine.
Yeah. And the Buddha, who was always like really tuned in to how his monks were doing.
Very compassionate.
He greeted them, you know, his usual way, asked about their comfort, how the retreat went, if they got along okay.
Such a, well, a human touch, right? Amidst all the discipline.
Exactly. So the monks, obviously, they tell him about the awful journey, how stressed they were, feeling so close yet so far.
At that moment, their story, that's the catalyst.
Right. This is where the Buddha introduces this special allowance, a specific fix for a very real problem they just faced. Okay, so let's unpack this. We're diving into what might look like, I don't know, really specific, maybe even kind of bureaucratic monastic rules.
Yeah, on the surface.
But as we'll see, it actually tells us a lot about like adaptability, community, and just really practical compassion.
Definitely.
So our mission today is to get our heads around this ancient Buddhist practice called Kaṭhina. It's this special set of rules, benefits, all about monastic robes, but born right out of these very human, very practical needs. We'll look at the what, the why, and the, well, the very detailed how-to.
Exactly. And the starting point is the Buddha's decree, his response to their suffering. Seeing how hard it was for them, he said, and this is from the texts, "I allow, monks, for those who have completed the rains retreat to spread the Kathina."
Yeah, simple as that, huh?
Well, the statement is simple, but what's really fascinating is how practical and, forward-thinking this rule actually is. It wasn't just theoretical.
Right.
It directly tackled the real difficulties these monks were up against. It offered actual concrete relief to help them keep up their spiritual practice without being totally bogged down by, well, physical misery and lack of basic stuff.
That's the core of it, isn't it? This wasn't some random rule dropped from the sky.
Not at all.
It was a direct, practical answer to tough travel, harsh weather, the constant headache of getting and maintaining robes when you have basically nothing.
Exactly.
And the real incentive, the carrot that made this whole Kathina thing worthwhile, was this set of 5 special allowances. They're called panya. Monks got these after they spread the Kathina.
Precisely. And these allowances, they were a big deal, a significant easing of the usual monastic rules, hitting exactly the problems those 30 monks just went through.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Think about those monks again, arriving soaked and exhausted.
Yeah.
How would these allowances change things for them?
Dramatically, I'd imagine.
First, they were allowed to travel without telling others beforehand. That's anamantacaro. Usually that was a strict rule, right? For order.
A very strict rule, yeah. So this allowance, it removed a layer of, well, admin, gave them huge flexibility in their wandering life.
Less paperwork.
Kind of. Imagine the time saved, the freedom to just go, follow a teaching, find a new spot without needing permission first. It shows a lot of trust.
Totally. Okay, second, they didn't have to carry all 3 of their essential robes when traveling. Asamadhanakaro. Given what we heard about those heavy, wet robes on that muddy trek, This must have been huge, a massive relief.
Oh, absolutely huge. It directly addressed the sheer physical burden of travel, especially for ascetics with hardly any possessions.
Right.
It meant they could move lighter, faster, more comfortably, put their energy into their practice, not just lugging stuff around.
Makes sense. Third, they could eat in a group. Kaṭhinakkhandhaka.
Hmm.
Apparently, group meals usually had much stricter rules.
Yes, the rules around communal eating could be quite complex. Easing them fostered community, made getting food simpler, maybe less of an individual burden.
Strengthen the team spirit, maybe.
Exactly. It helps build that sense of sangha, that community support, vital for morale.
Okay, fourth one. They could possess as many robes as they wanted, beyond the usual limit of 3. That's Yavadatta Kavara.
Wow.
Yeah. That must have felt like incredible freedom, more to luxury compared to the normal strict limit. Robes must wear out fast.
They would, especially with that lifestyle. So this provided real security about their basic needs. Protection from the elements, wear and tear.
Less worry.
Less worry, exactly.
Yeah.
No anxiety about a robe getting damaged and having nothing else, especially if the weather changed.
And number 5, the last one. Any new robe material that came up in the monastery automatically became theirs. Yukatadika ruparo, sonasa pavisati.
Ah, so a direct supply line.
Basically, like a dedicated source just for them during that period.
So you put all 5 together. These allowances were genuinely transformative, not just minor tweaks. They really eased the material worries, the logistical headaches of monastic life, allowed the monks to focus much more on their actual spiritual development.
Okay, so these benefits sound amazing, a real game changer. But how do you actually get them? How do you spread the Kathina? It sounds like it's not just a casual thing you decide to do.
Oh, absolutely not casual. It's a highly formal communal act. The formality is key.
How formal are we talking?
Well, first, a competent, experienced monk, a bhikkhu, has to announce to the sangha, the community present, that a suitable Kathina cloth has become available.
Okay, step 1, announcement.
Then there's a formal motion. It's called a nyati. This motion proposes granting the specific cloth to a specific bhikkhu named explicitly for the purpose of spreading the Kathina.
That's designated to one person.
Yes. And then the sangha, the community, has to formally approve this motion. Usually this is done by silence. If nobody objects, it signifies collective agreement. It's all very deliberate, very transparent.
Wow, that sounds almost like, I don't know, a parliamentary vote or something to grant special privileges.
In a way, yeah. It underlines the seriousness and communal nature of it.
But what really jumps out is the incredible detail in the source material about how Kathina is spread versus what doesn't count.
The specifics are crucial.
It really highlights how precise monastic discipline can be and how important genuine effort is. So to make sure the benefits are earned properly, it is spread by, well, using new cloth is okay.
Right. New unworn cloth.
But also rags, patched up cloth, even stuff found on a discard pile, dirty cloth, or even purchased cloth. So the source doesn't have to be fancy.
Not at all. What matters is the process and the intention. It has to be done with sincerity, following the right steps.
Okay, so what are those steps? It has to be made without any special identifying mark.
Right.
Nothing that flags it as predetermined.
Correct. And crucially, it has to be done without prior discussion or consultation. It needs to be sort of spontaneous in its initiation within the rules, not like a pre-planned scheme to game the system. Ah, so no loopholes.
Exactly. And it has to be done carefully, not carelessly or rushed. That speaks to the mindset, the intention behind a physical act.
And the material itself. It can't be from, like, a stash someone's been hoarding.
No, not accumulated material and not something already given up or dedicated for another purpose. It must be proper material.
And it has to be one of the 3 essential robes, specifically. The Sagga, Uttarasoga, upper, or Antarvasaka, inner.
Yes, only those 3 qualify. You can't just make any old piece of clothing.
And there's more. The robe has to be made of 5 or more pieces, and it must be cut and rounded on that very day.
Which implies a complete, fresh making process, not just tweaking an existing robe.
Right. And it has to be spread by that specific monk the Sangha designated.
Yes, the designated individual.
And finally, even if all that's done right, it has to be formally approved by a monk within the monastery boundary.
That final point anchors the whole thing to the community's physical space. It's not valid if approved by someone outside. Okay, that raises a big question. Why? Why all this incredibly meticulous detail? What's the point?
Well, I don't think it's just about rules for rules' sake. It seems to be a deep recognition of how important intention is.
Okay.
And the need for really clear boundaries to protect the integrity of a practice like this, to
Yeah.
stop it being diluted or, exploited.
Like preventing abuse of the system.
Exactly. Think about modern systems, right? Legal contracts, software code. We struggle all the time to define things precisely to prevent loopholes. This was their way.
So what doesn't count then? The source mentions things that don't spread Kathina.
Right. It's not enough to just say, scrape the cloth or wash it or cut it a bit, tie something, make minor changes like adding a hem or a loop.
So no shortcuts.
No shortcuts.
Yeah.
It requires the actual full process of making the robe, basically from scratch or from proper components that day. It's about genuine effort, proper materials, the right intention, following the procedure, not just going through the motions.
That makes a lot of sense. It has to be a real act of creation, basically.
Okay.
Okay, so once a monk gets these benefits, these allowances, they don't last forever, right?
No, definitely not permanent. They cease under very specific conditions.
And there are 8 of these conditions for withdrawal, called ubaraya.
That's right, 8 ways.
Why finite? What's the thinking there?
Well, the benefits are tied to that specific communal act of spreading the kahina and the period immediately following the rains retreat. These 8 conditions just outline exactly when those allowances stop applying. It ensures fairness, prevents indefinite privileges.
Because it grounded.
Keeps it grounded, yeah. And many of them revolve around the monk's intention or whether the practical reason for the benefit still exists.
Okay, let's maybe quickly touch on them. First, Kaṭhinakkhandhaka, end of departing.
Right. That's when a monk leaves the monastery for good with no plan to come back. The link is broken.
Makes sense. Second, Nihānantika, end of completion.
That's if the monk finishes making his needed robe, but somewhere else. The immediate need the Kathina addressed is met, so the allowance tied to that stops.
Okay. Third, Sanihānantika, end of resolution.
This is more internal. It's when a monk decides not to make a robe elsewhere, a change of intent regarding the robe-making task.
Interesting. Fourth, Nasanantika, end of destruction.
Simple enough. If the robe that was being made gets destroyed, the purpose making that robe is gone.
Fifth, Savanantika, end of hearing.
This one's about communication. It's when a monk, maybe traveling, hears that the Kathina benefits have been formally withdrawn back at his original monastery. Shows the communal aspect again.
Sixth, a Savachadika, cessation of expectation.
Yeah, basically when a monk stops expecting to receive robe material, maybe they got it, maybe they realize they don't need it anymore, the expectation ends.
Seventh, Samadhikantika, transgression of boundary.
That's crossing the boundary of the monastery where the Kathina was originally spread, physically leaving the zone of the benefit, in a sense.
And lastly, Sahuvara, simultaneous withdrawal.
Right. This is just when the Kahina ceremony is formally concluded at the monastery itself. When that happens, the benefits stop for everyone associated with it, regardless of where they are or what they're doing.
Okay, so putting it all together, what's the big picture takeaway from these withdrawal conditions?
It just means that even these special privileges aren't a free-for-all. They come with clear boundaries, responsibilities. The rules are super precise about when things change. It reflects this understanding that the allowances are tied to an active need or ongoing life within that specific community context. It's a really practical way to manage temporary concessions.
Very structured. And these conditions, they seem linked to another concept you mentioned, obstacles or hindrances, polyboda, and their opposite, non-obstacles, apolyboda.
Exactly. These factors directly influence whether the Kahina benefits are still active or not.
So what counts as an obstacle, something that keeps the benefits going?
There are 2 main ones. First is asapalyboto, the hindrance related to the residence, the monastery. This obstacle is present if a monk is still living in the monastery, or if he's left but fully intends to return. As long as that connection or intention is there, it's an obstacle to the benefits ending. So the benefits continue.
Because he's still part of that Kahina community, basically.
Precisely. The second obstacle is kivara polyboto, the hindrance related to the robe itself.
How does that work?
This is active if the monk's robe is still unfinished, still being made, or if his expectation of getting robe material hasn't ended yet. Again, these conditions keep the benefits active because the underlying need related to the robe is still there. It's very pragmatic.
Okay, so non-obstacles must be the flip side then, the conditions where the benefits do cease.
Exactly right. For avasa polyboto, the non-hindrance of residence, that occurs when a monk leaves the monastery for good. He's definitively abandoned it, no intention of returning. The connection is severed.
And the robe one, Kivara Palibodo.
That happens when the monk's robe is finished, or if it's been lost, destroyed, burnt, or simply when his expectation of receiving material ends.
Got it.
So if you connect this to the bigger picture, these obstacles and non-obstacles are really just defining the practical conditions for whether those special allowances are still valid. It all comes down to clear states, the monk's location, his intention, and whether that initial need that triggered the benefit still exists.
Wow. What a journey, eh? From those poor monks arriving soaked and miserable in Savatthi
Yeah, quite the story.
to the Buddha's really practical, compassionate response, and then diving deep into these incredibly detailed, almost, bureaucratic rules of Kathina.
It seems that way at first glance.
But we've seen how this seemingly niche set of rules about robes actually tells us so much about understanding human needs, managing a community, and just the nitty-gritty practicalities of life for monks back then.
It really is a testament, isn't it, that even the most profound spiritual paths have to exist within real-world limits. These rules weren't just made up. They seem carefully crafted to support the community's well-being and discipline, finding that balance.
Allowing flexibility without losing the core principles.
Exactly.
And, when you think about it, even today, in our own lives, we need clear rules and allowances for complex situations all the time. Like, tax codes, company policies, even just agreements we make with friends. These ancient rules were doing the same thing, creating a clear, fair framework for their specific community.
Balancing discipline and practical flexibility.
Yeah.
Making sure the system serves the people, not the other way around.
Yeah. It's a really fascinating window into the practical side of ancient spiritual life, how communities handle challenges.
It really is.
Okay, so here's maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. How can this kind of precision in rules, even when it seems tedious or overly detailed, actually create a kind of freedom and clarity within a structure?
Interesting question.
What does this whole deep dive into Kathina maybe teach us about that delicate balance between, say, freedom and discipline, and how really basic practical needs can drive the creation of these complex but maybe vital systems?